Alright, so here's a quick explanation of how I made my heat shield. So of course, get yourself a Mini Keg, whichever brand you want. I happened to get the only one they had in stores, so I got Heineken. Took me a little while to empty it, with the help of some friends, got it done. So, step one, cut holes. Make sure you measure top of here, the outside diameter of this. So mine was 3 1/4. It's a pretty standard filter that you would get for my 1.8T. So get a hole saw, which looks like this. This one, unfortunately, I just had it already lying around, but it wasn't quite 3 1/4, so had to use a file and all that. And then I got this a few years ago, this fitting here. Comes with its own little seal. I don't know if you can kind of see that little black seal there. There we go, you can see it on the other side. So this came in really handy. I've been wanting to do something like this for a long time, just didn't find the right object to use to be able to do this. I don't really drink much, so had no idea about a mini keg that I could use, so what can you do? Yeah, so then I just used these 1/2" screws. Mark it first, use a marker of course, that we can make sure the hole's in the right place. The hardest part about all of this was screwing this together, actually, because once I got it cut, as you can see here, it goes, the diameter changes from small to high. So I cut here, made a second cut up here, of course marked it with a marker first. That way I cut out, a section that was roughly a centimeter or slightly less, just so there's that height difference so that they could fit over each other. And it works perfectly. But when you go to fit this over, trying to make sure you drill holes in the right places and that they'll all line up is really challenging, because the thing keeps on wanting to shift around, since it's like, let's say my hand is the other piece, and since you move it just slightly this way, holes don't line up on the other side. You just move it slightly this way and you see the problem that you have. So that was a pain in the butt. That was the hardest part of this entire thing. So yeah, once you get that, then you're pretty much home free. And of course just use these screws I used 8 so that there's not too much stress on any one spot. Also, yeah, just use 1/2" at the longest, 1/4" if you can find them. I don't know if those exist, but yeah. File down sharp edges. Save your fingers. This does not take much effort to do. You don't pay attention for one little second, and then bam, you're slitting your finger open. So just file them down. So just a quick little note here. So I got 3" machine screws. You could, in hindsight, I could have gotten 2 1/2. I was actually thinking of getting 2 1/2, but I saw these 3" and I thought, you know what, might as well play it safe, make sure they reach and I have room to spare. So no big deal. You can get 2 1/2 if you want. This side would be inside the keg, but the filter would be coming through the hole and then being pressed up right up against the inside of the keg. So I didn't have much room. So what I was going to do is make a hole in the keg this size, and then come in here and be really flush, basically, so that it's not going to be pushing on the filter, and it'll allow the filter to be right up against the hole in the keg as much as possible to seal it off. And then you don't want anything rubbing against the filter anyway, because after a few months, if it does happen to the keg and the filter move independently of each other as the engine moves and so on when you're driving, you'll just wear a hole through your filter, and these filters can last you 10 years if you take care of them. And the last thing you want to do is have to replace it after 1 because of a little thing like this, right? So yeah, I was going to use this nice big washer, but as you can see here, this is how much I would have to cut off for it not to interfere with the hole. So fortunately though, I had a smaller washer which wouldn't get in the way, and I didn't have to cut, which had a very similar sized hole, not quite as big, but you know, it did the job. And having the bigger hole helps too, because then it can actually swivel a bit. Since the hole in the keg is 3 1/4 inch and the diameter of the intake pipe is 2 3/4, so it's like a 1/2 inch difference. So these holes that you're making in the keg are going to be wider than they're going to kind of be on an angle like this, reaching to the mass airflow sensor. So having a bigger hole, a drilled hole in the keg to allow you to do this and angle it really makes a difference. That way it's just trouble free, just fit it together, no big deal. So here's the finished product here. This metal's actually pretty decently strong. I just didn't want to take any chances, so I put washers just to spread out the force on both sides, on the inside and outside. Put it on there, get it tight, then start focusing on this, snug that up. And then you have a screw here that you're using to spread this out. Push this up against the filter, since there are 2 different pieces, so you get it to seal that hole there by doing that. And actually it'll stay firm once this is tight and that's pushed out. It actually stays pretty firm, and you don't need a second one there. But I do put another one on the other side for the sake of keeping this from pulling on this anymore. So that way if it gets pulled out for whatever reason, pushed around, it's not pulling on that and might pull that off. So the filter in here comes up to about here, and so I put these screws as far to the ends as I could to maximize the room between the end and the front of the filter. That way I'm not restricting flow. The whole point of this is to maximum airflow, right? So give the air a maximum amount of room to go around the front of the filter to the sides and go in. And then this piece here was just $10. Some HVAC flex pipe, aluminum flex pipe. And that was quite convenient, it just fits right in. I think this is slightly over 3 inches in outer diameter, an 1/8 of an inch, I think roughly, shy of 3 inches in inner diameter. And that's pretty much as big as you can get it. Coming around here is not an issue, just when you go down there in that gap. That's your limiting point there. I want to just get it just below that gap there to get fresh air and stay away from the engine. Like, I would like to get like a 4-inch one, but I don't think that's possible to fit through that gap. There's big cables, collections of cables going on either side, and it's really tight. This fitting here, I got this at a performance store. You're probably wondering where I got it from. Performance Improvements in Ontario when I was living there. So if you live in the same area, they might still sell these. Also, you can find them online. I'll put up on the screen pictures of what I found online at AliExpress, and the same ones on eBay, but they're more expensive on eBay. Alright, so we'll just get back to the actual function of this. So I have this coming down here, like I said earlier, down through that gap, but only just a couple inches through that gap, so that you're getting cool air from behind the front bumper. The whole purpose of that being, I didn't want to get crap in here, because the whole purpose of me having this was, well, 2 things. The first was, main one was having the intake of this whole cold air system higher off the ground and not so close to the front wheel, so it wasn't getting stuff thrown up towards it by the front wheel, like water and other debris. And so this way it was just low enough to get cool air, and that's it. And then so that way the filter's up here, and the only thing that comes in contact with the filter is whatever's light enough to make the path all the way up here, instead of whatever happened to run into it when the filter was down there. I've freed up extra room down below for putting in a front mount intercooler, because that's what we all want. So I don't know if you can see it there. There it is.
how much more room there is. It's all the way down here. Normally the filter would have been right in front of the camera right here. And you can see how close to the wheel it is, right in that area. But now, much higher. So that's the goal. Keep things out of the way. A lot less crap.
So hope you guys have enjoyed this. It took some brainstorming in the process, but it worked out pretty well. I'm pretty pleased. And in case you're wondering, yes, it does actually stay cold. It does heat up if it's been left sitting when the car is off. But once you get the car running, and especially once you're driving down the road, the airflow cools down this whole thing, and it's actually cool to the touch once the car's been running for a few minutes. So yeah, it definitely does its job, in case you were wondering. Alright, thanks for watching guys. See you next time.